Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Thanks for being with me here today as we talk to you about you changing the world. That's right. You can change the world. You can do it right here, right now, today, doing that really incredible thing called being you. That's right. Within each one of us is that amazing talent that allows us to shine out, to be even better than sometimes we can imagine being. And it gives us the opportunity to be able to change the world by just simply being us. Now, you might have created your own business, learned a new skill. You may have something revolutionary or the same as everybody else teaches that you teach in your own special way. Or maybe you just are really available to be a voice for people, for causes, for the things. Everything that you do that is allowing you to be the best you that you can be, while it's called today, allows you to change the world. And I want you to hear very clearly today that you can change the world. I've got some great guests that are going to help reiterate that for you. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Thriving Entrepreneur as we talk about you thriving in your life and your business. Maybe you own a company. Maybe it's huge. Maybe it's a Fortune 50 company. Maybe it's a brand new startup company and it's just you. Perhaps you don't own a business at all. And the business that you're in is being about managing the business of your own life. We all have that too. And what I want for you to be able to do today is to thrive in that life, in that business of being you, of doing the things that you can do in this world so that you can change the world. I'm so grateful to have you here with us. I really appreciate you. I hope you know that. And I hope that you will really take the time today to listen to the guests that we've got, to think to yourself, how does this apply to me? How can I change the world? What are the things that are just inherently part of who I am that could make the world a better place? Because you know how you do it? You just simply show up as the best version of yourself while it's called today. That's right. Yesterday's gone. My good friend Ernie Villanueva always said, yesterday's a canceled check. Tomorrow is a promissory note. Today is the only legal tender that we can spend. So what are we going to do with this wonderful blessing called today? What are we going to say to the world? What are we going to do to the world? What are we going to write that's going to go out into the world? How are we going to share powerfully with the world that message, that purpose, that thing that is so inside of you? Now, this doesn't mean that you need to make sure you cure cancer today or that you have to put all that undue pressure on yourself because you already are enough. You, just by being you, are going to make a difference in the world. That's right. You can change the world, and the way you do it is just simply by being yourself. No matter what others have said about you, no matter what things you may have experienced before in life, no matter who you are, no matter what's going on, you can change the world because you are amazing just as you are. And so when we think about maximizing today, we just simply look at what's the best thing that I can do today. And maybe for today, what that is resting up for the days that are coming. Maybe it's that big smile or those things that you do to let people know that you're there and that you care, to be you and shine you in the world so that you can change the world. You can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur. Let's jump in to our first amazing guest.
Join me in welcoming Alysia Silberg. Hey, Alysia, how you doing today?
Hi, Steve. Extremely excited to be joining you today.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here with us. I love our conversations. Today, we want to talk specifically about your book, Unemployable, that people can get for free. It's in the description. I'll also drop it here in the comments for people who didn't see it in the description. But first, before we talk a little bit about your book, just give us a little overview of who you are and how you show up in the world.
So I'm Alysia. I've been a founder since I was 5 years old. My journey with AI began when I founded one of the first AI companies in the world, and it was 2010, ex-Salesforce. I then went on to become an investor, investing in AI companies, which led me to write Unemployable, how AI transformed my work and my life. And that led me to found a new AI company called Unemployable AI. So it's been a journey of self-discovery, and I'm very excited to share that with you today.
I love it when you talk about AI in 2010 because I tend to think of myself as being on cutting edge. And I was probably using AI things and not calling it that. But give us an example of what was AI like in 2010.
It was very different to what it is today. So as you said, we didn't even know what really to call it. So for us, we had big companies that were customers, and they wanted to improve the experience between their salespeople and their customers. And so we had to build technology from the ground up, really not knowing what we were doing, but we knew what the end result was, which was that we wanted to empower the salespeople to have the resources and insights to give the very best experience to their customers. And so it was a practical problem that needed to be solved. And it was crazy. If I tell you how wild it was, we were finding like talent from places like Greece and Israel and Russia. And I remember this platform called Kaggle, where you could find like the best talent in the world and run these competitions. And I was running these wild competitions while trying to build this company because the technology didn't exist. So it was a very exciting time. But as you said, like it was discovering something that a decade later would make us all look super cool and super knowledgeable. But I must be honest, we were just lucky and really hardworking.
I love it. I suppose you were probably playing around in the early versions of crypto back then too.
Exactly. It was the same sort of thing, very messy. Again, like we never knew. I was very lucky with crypto. You know, we grew up in South Africa with these huge problems, huge infrastructure problems, a currency that just kept falling through the floor, where you'd walk into the supermarket and everything would cost double, just because, you know, we had an incompetent, corrupt government. And so it was really tough. So crypto for us made sense in terms of, you know, like a financial asset in order to store value. So again, wild times where we look back and say, wow, that was an interesting way to live.
I just love the parts of your story that are the few places where I'm like, "Ah, can't believe that I didn't do that back, when you could get Bitcoin for less than a penny and stuff like that."
You know, in South Africa, it was crazy because there was such huge infrastructure problems, which I would imagine in a lot of the emerging markets countries there were. A friend of ours was creating like a solution to electricity, something, you know, like because here in the US, electricity, the grid works pretty well. And people would be paying using Bitcoin in order to get access to this electricity. And everyone like discounted it. They were like, oh, this is such a dumb idea. Like he's using these like random little tokens. Like no one was like serious about it. And it was amazing because now it's become, you know, an extraordinarily important thing in the world. But at that time, everyone was like, oh, this is such rubbish. It was very few people that really believed in it and a real use case for it.
So let's talk about the book, Unemployable, how being unemployable transformed your work and your life. Um, let's talk first a little bit just about how you discovered that you were unemployable.
So for me, it was a career aptitude test. And at the time when I got the results, I was devastated. But, you know, I used it to my advantage and I was like, okay, this is fantastic. How do I use this in order to thrive in this world? And that was the beginning of where I went all in with building companies and saying, this is something that this is a powerful tool in my toolkit in order for me to accomplish greatness in my life. So it was a huge turning point in my life, being indicted, for lack of a better term.
I just love it. I wonder if the person who administered the test, wouldn't it be fun to go back to them now and go, see how unemployable I really am?
It's funny you say that, because he's a contact on LinkedIn, and I've kind of kept track of his career. And it's weird how people, he stayed stagnant, like his career hasn't evolved, like he's doing stuff. And I'm very grateful that it happened. We have these moments in our life where we can look back, and at that moment, it was a source of extreme pain and shame. And now I'm wise, and I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have come to the US. I wouldn't have fulfilled my dreams. I wouldn't have been able to build these companies, to have this conversation with you, had that thing not happened. So I'm very grateful to him. At some point or another, I think I should definitely send him a copy of the book and say, thank you. This was only because of you. Like, I'm so appreciative that you said that.
I totally love that. That is so cool. So the transformation of life is a lot about what the book covers. Talk to us a little bit about some of the things you've learned about transforming in your life, both from a spiritual standpoint as well as just practically.
I think resilience, and perseverance. And I think that was an incredibly important thing, where for a very long time, my life was extremely tough, and I had to keep on going. And the idea that the journey isn't always easy, and you do face personal and professional challenges along the way, but it's those challenges that ultimately define you, both in the physical world and in the spiritual world, where you can look back and say, wow, I've had this extraordinary life, a life that I'm in awe of, a life that, I walk on the beach here every day in California, and I see these beautiful trees, and, I see people skateboarding, and I'm like, wow, I get to live in this extraordinary place, doing these extraordinary things with extraordinary people like you. And that came from this extreme pain, where when people say to me, I'm going through these challenges, I'm going through these difficulties, I can't pursue this journey I want to pursue. I think back, and my life was a dead end life. There was no other way to describe it. If I looked at my physical circumstances surrounding me, for a big part of my early life, there was nothing available to me. It was through sheer, perseverance, through sheer resilience, which had to come from an internal place, in order to say, you know what, I don't care what it takes. I don't care how everyone around me says, you are going to fail, which was largely what was being said to me by many people at these things, because I was so different to the people around me. I had to dig deep, and I had to have such a driving intention. Like you can read in the book, where I talk about, I do these meditations, and I'd be manifesting this home that I'd have in New York City, and, and what the furniture would be like, and the car that I would drive, and what the curtains would be like, and the carpets. And it sounds wild today, because, I don't live in New York, and my life is pretty different, but I needed that. I needed that compelling vision, where it was so powerful and such a driving force, that no matter how much rejection, no matter how much went wrong, I would keep on going despite the difficulties. And I use that until today, where I'm building an AI company, and it's extremely difficult to build an AI company. It's very fast, it's very intense, but at the same time, I tap into those skills, that perseverance, that resilience, to say, I could do that. I could get myself out of very harsh circumstances. There's no reason I can't build an AI company today.
Absolutely. So, and there's so many things in the book, and so I acknowledge this is an unfair question up front, but what's your favorite part of the book?
I think when we came to the US, and, I don't want to spoil it for your readers, but we applied for VC funding. So we're sitting in South Africa, we applied for VC funding, and everyone around us says, you are going to fail. You have no right to be doing this. And I was like, I'm going to America. I'm going to fulfill my dreams. And it was brutal. Like, we arrived in Washington, D.C., and it was the coldest winter in 100 years. And we never knew how snow days worked. We knew nothing. And so off we go trudging down to this office on the snow day. No one's there. And it's hypothermically cold. We get there and we realize it's in an attic. So we're sitting in this attic with, tons of like cleaning materials around us. And we're like, what have we done? Like, this is a disaster. The VCs are not responding to us. It's just a complete disaster. And I'm listening and thinking how everyone around me at home said, don't go to America, you're going to fail. And I started working harder than it. And I've worked very hard my entire life. We work like 20-hour days, sleeping 2 hours a night. I was doing yoga at 2 o'clock in the morning. And we'd have this neighbor with a broom who would literally be like hitting the ceiling, saying like, shut up, go to bed. Your shower is like driving me crazy. And so that was the beginning of the adventure of a lifetime. And I think that's really important, to find the fun even in your challenges, to find the fun even in the obstacles, because that's what creates the journey. It's about the journey. It's not about the outcome. And I think that's really important in terms of, building companies, in terms of fulfilling your dreams. You're not focusing only on the end goal, but you're focusing on having the most beautiful journey along the way. And so I think that part of the book where we go into these wild adventures, where we had this bunny who we absolutely adored, and the bunny went everywhere with us. And we had to, take this bunny to all these places we were staying. And it was wild. The entire thing was absolutely wild. And we never had visas, and we couldn't stay in the country, and we couldn't get a place to stay. And it was just insane. But in the end, the company was sold and it was successful, despite how difficult it was. And it was worth it. I look back now and I look back at like the incredible investments I got to make, and I've invested in some extraordinary companies today. And I couldn't have done that had it not been through that very challenging time. So that's definitely the favorite chapter in the book. This wild adventure that deserves to be made into a movie. It was so insane.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I want to see that movie already. Yeah, I love it. So let's talk about moving forward. So the book Unemployable has now led to the beginnings of the new company Unemployable AI. Give us some ideas about what Unemployable AI is going to be doing as a company.
So it aims to democratize AI. So I've seen how many businesses lack the, internal resources or expertise to fully leverage AI. And for me, it was really important to play that role in the global ecosystem. So the democratization of AI is like a super important thing. So we've created these AI blueprints and modules, which enable us to go into a company and say, what is your biggest problem? Tell us what your biggest problem is. We've built AI to basically figure out what that problem is along with the client, and then say, here's a blueprint in terms of what we see strategically needs to be done inside your company. And then we take that blueprint, which is the strategy document, and say, okay, let us implement this into your business using these modules. Say, for example, we're working with a private equity firm. They want to scale, and so they need more capital. So we did a deep dive. Our AI came back and said, you need to focus. Your number one priority needs to be on raising capital for your company. The CEO was aligned. His team was aligned. They agreed the AI was right. This was the priority. So then we created a blueprint in terms of strategically, how do we get them the capital they need? So in this situation, they wanted to raise $15 million. So it's like, who are the perfect investors to be raising $15 million from? Because, from the outset, it looks like you could go to this kind of investor, but in the specific space they're in, there's a group of investors that would be the best investors to be targeted. And then in that strategy document, we look at which AI tools would be most effective in our arsenal to assist in order to get this 15 million closed as fast as possible. Then we take that blueprint and we apply it, and we go about assisting them to ensure they get that capital as fast as possible. The outcome being, they have the 15 million in their bank account, and they go to work in terms of deploying that capital into new investments.
That is amazing. It's amazing to me, all the things now, and I'm sure that it's probably as shocking to you too, from your roots back in 2010, all the things that we can do with AI. And I feel bad for people who aren't are still afraid of it, because I've still heard some people, that are like, they think it's Terminator, Rise of the Machines, and we're gonna, be killed by them. But it's really cool to go in there and ask them. I was doing one yesterday where a client asked me for a bid on a project. And it's not that I couldn't have just written it all out, but I was like, hey, give me this. I forget which one I was even using, but I was like, lay this whole thing out for me. And it gives me this amazing document that said, there were some tweaks that had to be done. It wasn't perfect and it wasn't in my voice, but, did all of that for me, and it did it in like a minute. And I'm like, why don't we use AI like constantly all the time?
That's exactly it. So when you ask me about unemployable AI, I know what raising capital was like. Like, I founded Street Global, my investing firm, 7 years ago, and it was very backward and it was very challenging. If you never grew up in Silicon Valley, and I'm a minority, and it's tough in order to raise capital. And I saw what it was like to work with people who are in the capital raising business. It was a very antiquated way of doing things, like you say. And I saw for 7 years that there's a process to raising capital that can be optimized in a very efficient way using AI. And I was like obsessed to say, okay, I can do this for myself. I can do this for other people. And to me, that's the democratization of capital, where you can say to people, Steve, you need to raise capital for your business. Let me help you using the power of AI. You do what you do best, which is you, being creative, engaging with your clients, and let's use the AI to get you that capital. And that's just an example, but I agree with you 100% that and it's moving so fast. Like, I think about where the world's going to be in 7 years' time, and it's very exciting. And I think for people that are fearful, being curious, being open-minded, saying, okay, what do I not want to do? Like, what is something that I need to be doing that I don't want to do, that I can just outsource to my own employee? An AI agent, which is how we refer to them in an industry, is like your own employee. You can have an army of employees where in the past, with your business, you would have had to do everything yourself. And it's like, it's just, even with your team, the things your team doesn't want to be doing, that they could be so much more effective doing the creative stuff, the stuff they have mastery over, the stuff that they're passionate about, versus this is like administrative stuff that none of us wants to be doing, that it's easy to outsource to this army of bots.
I absolutely love that. People really need to get the book, and the link is there for them to do it. It is actually available today for free, which, the ebook, and that's really cool as well. But if somebody wants to go deeper with you, they want to look at what kind of things your company could do for them, how can they get in contact with you?
Best way is to connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message. And the more specific you can be, the better. So I know to like flag it and make sure for me or one of my team to respond to you. So if you have a company and you're trying to solve a specific problem, or you're dealing with a challenge, tell me about it so that I can make sure that our interaction is as effective as possible. That's the one way. I also have an AI newsletter that my team and I put a ton of work into. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you can get access to that newsletter and join our community of CEOs and executives. Steve's one of those people, and it's just a very interesting group of people who shares their insights in terms of AI.
We could go on, and I'd like for us to just have this be like a 3-hour interview, but we are kind of at the end of things right now. Before I let you go, though, give us some words of encouragement about what using AI on our business could mean for us productivity-wise.
Challenge your own perspective when it comes to AI. Be curious, and what you'll see, it'll inspire you to do incredible things when it comes to both your work and your life. And it will open the world up for you in a way that you can't possibly imagine. So understand the role of the technology and harness it to your advantage, because the investment you make today will compound, and we're only in the first innings of AI. So what you do today will impact you massively in the next 3, 5, and 10 years' time. You won't look back.
Alysia, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I loved every minute of it.
If you haven't gotten the book Unemployable yet, you absolutely have to get it. An amazing book. Alysia is so much fun. And, all of the things that she's doing, all the community that she's creating, all the cool stuff that she begins the story in Unemployable, that's now going to be moving into all she's going to be doing in Unemployable AI to, as a real expert in AI, bring us all into a new and better and cool place with AI is going to really be something you want to be a part of. Alysia is definitely doing her part to change the world, and we want you to be a part of it. If you haven't gotten the book, like I said, absolutely go and get a copy of the book today. It will most definitely help you know that you can change the world, no matter what anybody else has said about you. And it will help you live as a thriving entrepreneur. With that said, let's jump into our first commercial break. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKidd.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we talk to you about the fact that you can change the world. In the first segment, Alysia was talking to us about her book, Unemployable, and about how people were telling her that there was no chance for her. And yet she became a titan, if you will, in the AI industry, in things that, we all know about now, but back a decade ago, very few people even knew it existed, and she was making a difference by just simply not buying the message other people were saying, but saying to herself, you can change the world. And we've got a couple more great guests here for you that are going to show you other ways that you can change the world and live as a thriving entrepreneur. So with that said, let's jump in to our next guest. Join me in welcoming Utibe. Hey, Utibe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
To kick us off here, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Sure. Well, I am someone who, if I was to describe myself, I'll say two things. I care about two things. Everything boils down to these two things. One is I care about how people see and treat other people, and I care about how people see and treat themselves. And so if these are two closely held beliefs, then everything I do is a derivative of that. So professionally, I am vice president of customer experience at a utility company in Virginia. I am also the creator of a platform called Love as a KPI, which really challenges traditional business metrics and measures of success, and asks the question that, hey, if we measure the things that are important to us, should we also be measuring how we're leaving people? Beyond that, I'm a lover of music, super amateur piano player. I'm a lover of travel and laughter and tea.
I love that. So for people who aren't familiar with it, tell us what KPIs are.
Sure. A KPI is a key performance indicator. So here I am doing the same thing by using business buzzword without explaining it. But it's really the thing that, a lot of organizations have different KPIs, different key performance indicators. And it's literally the thing that, an organization or a person or a team uses to say, how are we doing against the things that matter most? So It's not uncommon to find at a broader business level, revenue will be a KPI. For a salesperson, closed sales, leads, those are KPIs, key performance indicators. And so it's the thing, how people say, you can't manage what you don't measure. Well, whatever we indicate as a lever or measure of success is a key performance indicator for that person or for that team or that organization.
So how do we measure love as a key performance indicator?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been doing through this work, first is just introducing the premise of love as a KPI, and really first introducing the premise of love in the context of business to begin with. It's a word that, is either intriguing or makes people uncomfortable. I'm sure some things in between. But the idea is, if every business needs people to do something, whether you need people to work there, you need people to buy from you, you need people to recommend something, to vote for something, to think something, to feel something, to know something, to do something. Ultimately, if you take all the other sort of, key performance indicators that we think about tied to traditional business success, and you boil them all down, they rely on someone to do something in some way, shape, or form, whether that's a shareholder, an investor, it's a human being. And sometimes these buckets that we place people in sort of hide the fact that it's all human beings. And so if it's all human beings, like, what is it that allows human beings to thrive? What do people respond to? And one of those things really that I believe is coded in the DNA is love. Not love as a feeling, not love as a mushy idea, but genuinely love. And so what I've been doing is taking some time to unpack what is love, and I've defined 5 tenets. I won't go too deep into them in this conversation, but I'll mention them. Empathy, right? The ability to sit in the shoes of someone else, to identify with the people that you're here to serve, whether that's serving them as your colleagues or your team members or your customers or your shareholders in some way, shape, or form. Leadership is service. So empathy is one. Grace, really, which is the idea that we give people, we believe the best in people. We give people the benefit of the doubt. These things sound sort of soft and unnatural in business, but we all know that when we've been given that grace, when we have a leader who says, I know you can do better, even when we are not showing that we can do better, when we have a teacher that believes in us, we know what it does in us and what kind of loyalty it yields. So one is empathy, second is grace, the third is generosity. And a generous person is a giver. And so we've read sort of Adam, Grant's Give and Take. When you are giving, when you're generous with your time, with your resources, people respond, particularly when it makes no sense. So we've seen businesses who give things out. Hey, if you buy one, we'll give one to someone else. The spirit of that is attractive to people. So I talked about empathy, grace, generosity. The fourth one's a big one. Steve, it's a very heavy word, but it's sacrifice. And the idea of sacrifice, really, again, we experience it without really calling it that, is when someone puts themselves to the side to do what's best for others. So there's a reason that we react to people in the armed forces. There's a reason we react to heroes, because they ultimately are, hey, what is best and most convenient for me? I'm going to put to the side for you. And there's actually a way businesses can do that. And last but not least is trust or transparency. And so those are the 5 tenets. So a simple way to answer your question is unpacking each of those and then engaging. You can measure love by really first defining it, which is what I've done in those 5 tenets, and then engaging how is an organization doing in each of those 5 things by asking customers a series, or employees, or any sort of human stakeholder, a series of questions to see how loved are they being by that organization.
I want to jump on something that you said, not in a bad way, but go deeper into something that you said at the beginning of that. And that was talking about the commonality that is all of us being human beings, regardless of the other identifiers that we use. Do you find in your doing this kind of work that it's flying a little bit in the face of some of the DEI and those other kinds of types of movements that people want to bring into corporations?
It's a great question. I don't believe it flies in the face. I do think it perhaps, and depending on, the sort of the organization or agenda, but I do think it perhaps gives a layer of depth to it. I think that there is there are differences between people, there are cultural differences, all of those things are true. There is a true human condition that sort of runs deeper. And I think that with love as a KPI, it's going even deeper. Not that you don't need those initiatives, they play a role, but this is really around thinking how you even see people. Number one, Steve, like that's like the first. So when I teach this, I'm like, how do you even see people? Do you see your customers as a means to an end? Do you see your employees as a means to an end? Do you see human beings as tools to be used, right? That is the depth I'm talking about when it comes to love. The thing is, when, again, we've all hopefully have all had that leader, or that, even a business that we've frequented or something where we felt seen, we felt appreciated, we felt empowered, and our response is a deeper sense of loyalty than, a buy one, get one free coupon can buy you. So saying all that to say, I don't think it's flying in the face necessarily. I think it just approaches the topic of people from a much deeper place.
I love that. So, how are you beginning to see this show up in the different organizations that you've worked with?
Yeah, I'll say there are three types of responses. One is people who already think this way. They're like, yes, you're giving language to what I'm already doing, and I am empowered to do more of it, right? And my role and my goal, even as I grow and grow this platform, is to give folks the tools to do it. Meaning, I'm giving you language, I'm giving you literally a framework, something to use to measure, sort of go forth and do what you're already doing. I'm giving you some structure. The second bucket of people are like, this is interesting, but I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how does it really show up? How does it apply? The work to be done there is typically taking a stronger business lens, than a leadership lens. It's helping them see let's use your products and services as an example. How can your products and services be a conduit of love? So that's real more strategic planning work on their product lines, their goals, their policies, and really looking at those things and unpacking them to see how can those things be a conduit for love. And through that process, my hope is with more and more leaders, they themselves will see the need for them to be conduits of love. The third bucket of people are like, this absolutely has no place in business. Love business makes sort of no correlation. I think my goal there is not to convince, but just to share more and more case studies and examples where even if you don't call it love, when these things are applied, it drives sustainable success, not flash in the pan success, not, here today, gone tomorrow, because there's something coded in human beings that when they are loved, they show up and they tell other people, and they want you to succeed and thrive. And so with those groups, it's really more about the business case. So we're early in this journey, but these are the three, I would say, categories of people and the three different approaches I'm finding I take with them.
I love that. Are you familiar with Og Mandino's book, The Greatest Salesman in the World?
I've heard of it. I have not read it, but I will take your recommendation.
Oh, you totally have to read it. So, without giving away the whole book, the guy who discovers these scrolls, blah, blah, blah. Read the book. It's an amazing book. In fact, if you have the capability to do it, the best way to use that book is there are however many scrolls, I can't remember right off the top of my head right now, but literally take and read each of the scrolls that are contained in the book. Do it every morning for 30 days in a row and until you've gone through all of them. Scroll 1 is, I will greet this day with love in my heart. And how will I face the dawn? I will look at it and I will say, I love you. And to each person I meet, even before they approach me, I will say to myself in my heart, I love you. And that may not be an exact quote, but that's pretty close. After having read it many, many, many times, I strongly encourage you to read that because it's just so exactly what you're saying. So let's take it a different direction and let's talk about the people who you said are in that third bucket that are just totally resistant to it. Can you give us some kind of insight into what's ending up happening when we don't embrace love as a KPI in our business?
It's a great question. I find that for those who are really resistant to it, when I have the opportunity to sit with them one-on-one, even for 15 minutes, there's some thing about their own humanity that they've either denied or I call it the imaginary firewall that they've blocked from their own role as a business leader, someone in business, meaning this idea of love is something we're doing anyways, right? One of the things I say, so I'm writing a book about this. One of the things I often say is, the same things that are needed in our personal relationships for them to thrive, right? So you think about a best friend, a spouse, a partner, even a kid, a mentor, the same things: communication, listening, respect, empathy, consideration, the same things, the moments that make friendships grow in their depth, right? Someone did way out of their way, did something to benefit you. They drove 4 hours to help you move furniture. Those little things, again, I just want to sort of, my goal is always to point out this stuff is happening, and it's bonding people. It's the same things we need in our business relationships. And so with the people who are resistant to it, one is, as people, as humans, as leaders themselves, I found that it's not the case all the time, but I found that sometimes we play the role, I find that folks play the role of business leader as it's like a suit or a mask, and forget that they're human beings as well. So it's often tapping into that helps. The thing is, when we don't embrace love as a KPI, there's a few things. One other thing I also say a lot, Steve, is people are oftentimes the collateral damage of the way businesses run, meaning we can be successful and make the money. And absolutely, that's important, right? You will never hear me say that. No, 100% that's important. But we also, because we see people as the tools or the means to an end, and the employee is just a way to get to that level, that number, the customer is just a way, the humanity of people, the light in people, the joy in people, the hope in people is actually a consequence of how sometimes we run businesses. For those folks, so and there's a lot of value we leave on the table. I don't think it's either or. I don't think it's either profit or humanity. I think there's a role for both, but it means that we have to flip the equation and make people the goal. When you make people the goal, loving people, honoring people, even with very little things, and I'm saying it, simple things, right? This may feel very heavy. They will do the thing we want, a business leader wants. They will buy. They will tell people. They will stay. They will not attrit unless they have to. And if they will want to, again, it's just something about this thing called love. So two things. One is if we don't embrace love as a KPI, there's it's of a long-term impact to people, right? When people are burnt out at the job or are disrespected as customers, it doesn't just stay in the context of that business. They take it home. They take it home to their families. I've talked about witnessing people get berated by bosses, and the light in them dimmed. And some of those people have never seen them recover. Their self-esteem has suffered permanently, not just at the job. And it doesn't go back up when they go outside. It's literally there. And there's a lot of value leave at the table, because when people feel safe, they feel welcome, they feel heard, they feel appreciated, they feel this bond and connection that love and sacrifice and all those things gives to them. They will be loyal. It's real a source of sustainable value. So that is the upside. You could either appeal to you from a business perspective or humanity perspective, but there is a win for whatever angle you want to take.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. One of the best leadership quotes I've ever heard in my life is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So
Yes, sir.
Before I let you go, please tell us how a person can get in contact with you to go deeper in this discussion with you.
Absolutely. I have a website that we've put up, loveasakpi.com. So loveasakpi.com. Same handle on Instagram. I'm not super active on Twitter, but I will be soon. So same handle on Twitter. Or you can just email me directly at Utibe, UTIBE, at loveasakpi.com. Thank you.
Utibe, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate your time.
Of all the key performance indicators out there, there is none better than how well can you love. How much can you express love? How much can you take in love? What can you do to let love be the powerful thing that it can be to really make a difference and change the world, so that you can change the world when you look at love as a KPI? I love that, and I hope that you learned some really great things from that that'll help you live as a thriving entrepreneur. With that said, let's jump in to our next guest here on Thriving Entrepreneur.
Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world.
Go to AskSteveKid.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we talk to you and let you know that you can change the world. In the first segment, we were talking about moving from someone telling Alysia that she was unemployable to being someone who really is shaping and defining both the last 10 years of AI as well as all the cool stuff that's going on moving forward. And then Utibe came in the second and really talked to us about love and about how one of our key indicators should be our ability to love and cherish and really treat people well. And, I really think that now the best thing that we can do to kind of tie this all together is to bring you one more guest that's going to share with you some of the things that she does to shine her light and change her world in the little way that she can, to help you see some more ways that you can change the world and you can live as a thriving entrepreneur. With that said, let's jump in to our next guest. Join me in welcoming Gigi Sabat. Hey, Gigi, how you doing today?
Fantastic and honored to be here with you today, Steve.
Oh, so glad to have you here with us. First off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Absolutely. Great question. So essentially, my name is Regeline, but I prefer Gigi, and I'm a motivational keynote speaker in the Life Service Center of America.
All right. Tell us more about your company and the kind of things that they do in the world.
Great question. So Life Service Center of America, essentially, it has two different aspects. It has the coaching programs and the coaching services that we offer to folks. And then we also have what is called the Business Service Navigator, which allows our members to locate the services that they need in a reasonable time. So essentially what would happen is they have free access to it, our members, and they can actually locate that themselves in our library. And it's free, Steve.
Oh, we all love free. Absolutely. What kind of services do you have in there?
Yes, great question. So essentially, again, our members, they can actually access all of our programs via the library. So it's essentially similar. You go into an in-person store, except here it's an e-commerce business. So now they have what is called the product or the program on the virtual platform, and they can actually browse through and see what would be best for them, or what they believe is best that fits their needs, similar to when you go to a store. And so very, very similar here. But one of the things that I love, again, is that with our programs, we do provide motivational programs and courses. And again, our programs are designed to assist folks with achieving their goals.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the speaking that you do. Talk to us about, the kind of speaking events that both you put on, as well as the kind of speaking things you like to do.
Absolutely. Great question. And so essentially in regards to speaking, yes, I do speak at other events as well. And I do host my own events as well. And so let me backtrack here a little bit. And I'll tell you this, Steve. So almost a few years ago, I actually lost my life, death by strangulation in a domestic violence relationship. After everything that happened, I stepped into God's purpose for my life, and I launched podcasts. I launched a book, and then God also led me to host various events. I mean, it started off with domestic violence and sexual assault, topics that I'm a survivor of, but then he also led me to host them on various subjects, you name it, and we haven't stopped since. And so when we talk about the events that we host, literally that's just us listening to him and what he needs us to do here. And we just haven't stopped since. And again, when you love what you do, it's no longer work.
Oh, I love that so much. So what is your what is the next few events that you have coming up?
Yes. So the next event that we have coming up here this Friday is actually the Alzheimer's Disease Conference. That one is at 5 p.m. Eastern. It's a virtual summit. We just wrapped up our Global Epilepsy Conference, and we also just wrapped up our Global Superpower Conference and our Leadership Conference as well that we do annually. And in person, we have our Global Warriors Conference coming up here. And we have a few other events, Steve. We have the Global Stuttering Conference and the Global Health and Wellness Conference as well. Those are online.
Love those so much. All right, well, let's dive more into Gigi. What is the thing that, if you could just talk about one thing the rest of your life, what's that number one thing in your life?
It would be in alignment with my word of the year, which is serve. And when you love, again, what you do, it's no longer work. I can do this all day, Steve. And I love it. And so essentially, and here's the thing. I've been doing this my entire life, right? This is nothing new. I love helping people. That's nothing new. But I will tell you this, when you almost lose your life, you start seeing from a different lens. And not just that, you're able to understand folks from their place of pain than ever before.
Yeah, for sure. What is the thing that you know now that is just so clear that you wish would have been that clear, 10, 15 years ago?
Oh my goodness, I can't tell you enough. And I have it sitting here in front of me right now. It's called the Overcoming Heart Blocks book, Inspiring Stories for Healing from Trauma. So when we talk about this book, it's a collaborative book that I did with amazing individuals from all over the world who came forward in regards to their own heart block. And my own mother, Steve, she came forward about her own heart block as well. And like I said, in regards to the trauma component as well. And so when we talk about this subject, not just sexual assault, right? It's not just domestic violence. It's not just human trafficking. It's so much more than that. There's so many other factors, so many various components in regards to where this can stem from, this heart block, right? And so we have to face it head on. And so how do I know that? Because like I said, I've been there. And so literally having to face it, right? Having to face what happened. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but sexually assaulted when I was 8, and again as an adult. So again, these are the conversations that we have to have, as difficult as it may be. And mind you, Steve, I was an introvert, and I'll never forget what my friend said. He said, "You need to share your story, Gigi. It may help someone." He didn't say that it would, Steve. He said that it may.
Very true. But it's not ours to decide what the outcome is. It's just ours purely to put the message out there and let the results be what God wants them to be.
Absolutely. But then you're also, again, as you're sharing it, you have to face it. You have to face the trauma.
As we come through the traumas, they become a part of us. It's healing is kind of one of those weird words because we'd like to have something where it was just erased. God came in with a great big sponge and just kind of cleaned it up like you do, messes on the counter or whatever, but it doesn't really work that way. It kind of more integrates into who you are. So what is one or two really cool things that you know about yourself now that you've overcome some of those things?
I would say now I'm an ambivert. So that's essentially an introvert and an extrovert, right? So I'm both, right? And I would say on the other side, in regards to the trauma, it's and in one word, someone asked me, I would tell you this, it's peace, right? And actually being able to experience that. I mean, just what's on the other side. I mean, and if you were to tell me that I would be able to experience that, I would tell you, really? I didn't even think that was possible.
I have a fun question I love to ask folks that are in your space. What is your definition of joy? Not happiness, but joy.
Of joy? That is such a great question, Steve. And I'm just getting excited here. Joy, oh my goodness. It's what I feel for example, when I go to the beach, just literally just how it feels. It's beautiful. It's peace. It's peaceful. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. So much emotion when you just even not just being physically present at the beach, but also just looking at it, the view. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I absolutely love the beach. I remember the first time when I had first moved out west and we came across this area of the ocean. It happens to be in a city called Depot Bay, Oregon. Doesn't really matter, but the waves were just so incredible. And we pulled off to the side and we were just sitting there watching the waves. And I realized that I could probably sit in a little chair and just sit there and watch the waves for the rest of my life. It's probably good that I don't live there.
Wow. So you get it. Do you?
Oh, I absolutely do. So before I let you go, though, what I want to know is give us some information about how people can work with you.
Absolutely. So they can find me on LinkedIn. So that's Regeline Sabat. They can also locate me as Gigi Sabat. So it's Regeline Gigi Sabat. That's how it appears. And then also on our website, you can reach out to us via support. So that's the contact us page on our website. That's Life Service Center of America, LLC.com.
Life Service Center of America, LLC.com.
Correct.
Perfect. I love it. Well, before I let you go, give us some words of encouragement about how great life can be.
Absolutely. Life is just like beauty, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So life is truly what you make it. And you can essentially go throughout this lifetime with negative self-talk. But I want to encourage you and remind you to really shift that and shift it from negative self-talk to positive self-talk. And remember that you matter, your voice matters, your love, God is with you, and whomever you believe in, higher power is with you, that you're not alone. One of my favorite verses is Joshua 1:9. It states, haven't I commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid or discouraged, for your Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And again, and I also want to remind your folks here that it's important to shift your mindset from a negative mindset to a positive mindset and maintain what is called a resilient mindset. And also too, we will face challenges throughout this lifetime. That is inevitable. And you cannot foresee it, right? Sometimes you cannot foresee it. And so I want to encourage you that just because you've overcome one challenge, that again, other challenges may happen, but to keep moving forward, to not give up, and remember who's with you, remember whose you are. And also too, and I want to remind you to just hold on to faith and keep moving forward. And again, you do not have to do it alone. You're not alone, and don't give up.
Absolutely. Well, Gigi, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Absolutely. It's such an honor, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Check out Gigi's community and all of the cool things that she does, the speaking events that are on, and the really amazing products that people in her community are presenting to the world so that you can use them and you can change the world. Because you know why? You are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose, and the world needs you. That's right. We need you. We need you to be exactly who you are, to do those cool things that you do, be the best version of yourself while it's called today. Make the most out of today, and then let today go when today is tomorrow, or today is yesterday rather, and live the best you that you can be tomorrow when tomorrow comes, not before, okay? Don't get the cart before the horse. And that's the best way that you can change the world. And you can live as a thriving entrepreneur and have amazing things happen as you change the world. Thanks for joining with me. Until we're together again next time, I hope you have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world.
Go to AskSteveKid.com and schedule a time to talk today.